Here, he conducted barbaric experiments on innocent victims.
Jimmy Savile.
He was like a conjurer. He mesmerized people. We trusted him.
Considered one of the most beloved celebrities in Britain, the extent of Jimmy Savile's crimes didn't come to light until after he passed away. His celebrity status and charitable work created a protective public image that shielded him from allegations of sexual misbehavior, however serious they were. Organizations including the BBC and NHS hospitals failed to properly investigate reports of inappropriate behavior, often dismissing the allegations without conducting follow-ups.
These revelations, the Sun describes them as the dark side of Britain's top DJ.
These protections allowed Savile to become one of the most prolific sex offenders in British history, with police identifying over 400 victims over a period of 5 decades. Tragically, Savile died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 84, having completely gotten away with his rampant abuse.
His is one of the most familiar faces in Britain. But there is another side, a dark side. It is of a ruthless, calculating Jimmy Savile.
Ted Kennedy.
We flew down low over the Dyke Bridge, and I saw the car and the commotion down there and everything, and I thought, oh my God, there goes Ted's presidency right there.
It's amazing what being rich and powerful can get you. On July 18, 1969, Senator Ted Kennedy was driving on Chappaquiddick Island with 28-year-old Mary Jo Kopechne when he accidentally drove his car off a bridge. The car overturned in the water, trapping and slowly killing Kopechne. Kennedy walked away from the scene, and it wasn't until 10 hours had elapsed that he contacted the authorities.
With that, Kennedy dove into the water and swam across the channel to Edgartown. Neglecting to report the accident, he returned to his hotel room for the night.
During this time, Kennedy returned to his hotel, consulted with his personal and legal advisors, and appeared publicly as if nothing had happened. This type of incident would usually involve felony charges and substantial prison time. Instead, Kennedy was given a suspended sentence and probation, with analysts blaming the light sentence on his wealth and political privilege.
I regard as indefensible the fact that I did not report the accident to the police immediately.
John Rufo.
A breakthrough in the more than 20-year-long manhunt for one of America's most wanted, or at least the U.S. Marshals thought they might have a clue.
One of the largest bank fraud schemes in American history was orchestrated by business executive John Rufo, and he completely got away with it. Well, sorta. Through an elaborate financial conspiracy, Rufo defrauded the United States and foreign banks of millions of dollars.
John Rufo, now 66 years old, convicted of a $350 million bank fraud scheme back in 1998, and then he disappeared.
He was eventually caught in 1996 and faced a 150-count indictment with charges including fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. He was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 17 years in prison. He was ordered to turn himself in to the U.S. Marshals Service on November 9, 1998, but he never showed up. Rufo bailed and fled the country, his abandoned car found at JFK Airport. He never served a day in prison and remains at large.
But, look, you're looking for a short, balding man. I mean, you're looking for George Costanza, in fact, and he could be anywhere. It's going to be hard to find him.
Saul Boonwat.
Diplomatic immunity.
Diplomatic immunity provides foreign diplomats with legal protection from prosecution and civil lawsuits in their host countries. And one of the most notorious examples is that of Saul Boonwat, who served as the Burmese ambassador to Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka. Owing to significant gaps in documentation, the exact details of the crime are not known and may be embellished, but according to reports, Boonwat shot and killed his wife over an alleged affair inside their diplomatic residence. Sri Lankan police were legally prevented from intervening or entering the compound, and Boonwat fled the country just a few days later. There is no official record that a trial ever took place back in Myanmar, which suggests that Boonwat got away with the crime.
How did you get that piece through customs? Diplomatic immunity.
Great. That restores my faith in airport security.
Roman Polanski.
This is a case seemingly that will never die. Going on 40 years now, Roman Polanski's name still being bannered about in Superior Court.
A powerful figure in Hollywood, Roman Polanski was an Oscar-nominated director behind acclaimed movies like Rosemary's Baby and Chinatown. His career should have ended in 1977, when he pleaded guilty to unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor.
I don't blame myself. See, Mr. Gitz, most people never have to face the fact that at the right time and the right place, they're capable of anything.
Polanski had initially been charged with multiple serious offenses, but he struck a plea agreement that would have resulted in time served plus probation. However, Polanski learned that a judge was likely going to impose a harsher sentence, likely sending him to state prison. So he fled to France and has never returned. Not only has he lived the rest of his life as a fugitive, but he continued to be awarded by Hollywood, even winning the Best Director Oscar in 2003 for The Pianist.
If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? Very appropriate.
Karl Malone.
Meets the kid 17 years later, 17 years old, says, listen, dog, it's too late for me to it's too late for me to be a dad to you. You got to go get it out the mud, get it on your own.
Considered one of the best basketball players of the 90s, Karl Malone was a 14-time All-Star and 2-time MVP. He was clearly very talented, and the parents of Gloria Bell knew it. Back in 1983, Malone was 20 years old and playing for Louisiana Tech. It was during this period that he impregnated 13-year-old Gloria Bell. This constitutes carnal knowledge of a juvenile under Louisiana law, and could have seen Malone fined significant money and imprisoned for up to 10 years. However, Bell's family declined to press charges, so Malone walked free, enjoyed a prosperous career in the NBA, and even received a statue outside of Louisiana Tech and the Delta Center.
So there's a statue of Karl Malone outside of Utah. Now,
that was where I was going with that.
Y'all can look up Karl Malone and what happened with him.
Werner von Braun.
He claims that he was forced to do so, in the sense that if he had not done it, it would have been the end of his career. I think that's utter nonsense.
Operation Paperclip is a controversial program which saw Nazi scientists coming to America after World War II, and few benefited more than Werner von Braun. Von Braun was deeply complicit in Nazi war crimes through his work on the V-2 rocket program, which relied heavily on forced labor. An estimated 20,000 prisoners died producing his V-2 rockets under horrific conditions, often succumbing to starvation, disease, and exhaustion.
Countless tens of thousands of these slaves are literally worked to death, deprived of food, sleep, and sanitation. They're expected to live just a few weeks. When they die, their emaciated corpses are simply piled up at the edges of the tunnels.
However, the U.S. prioritized his rocket expertise over justice, so they suppressed information about his wartime activities and brought him over to help develop rockets during the space race. Von Braun lived comfortably in America and became a celebrity scientist, even receiving the National Medal of Science from President Gerald Ford.
The second stage has 8 motors and carries 155 tons of fuel. It will be dropped when its speed has reached 14,300 miles per hour.
Leopold II of Belgium.
Before the clashes, peaceful protesters climbed the statue to Belgium's colonial king Leopold II, waving the flag of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
One of history's most devastating colonial atrocities was overseen by Leopold II of Belgium, who established the Congo Free State as his personal colony in 1885. The population was forced to harvest rubber and ivory. The depraved system enforced through the likes of systemic mutilations, mass killing, and the deliberate restriction of food.
The mural comes at a moment of unrest and change for Belgium as it confronts uncomfortable truths about its past.
As such, the human cost was staggering, complete with millions of deaths. However, the rubber boom made the Congo enormously valuable, so the regime was basically ignored. Furthermore, there was no international criminal court at the time to handle such crimes. So while he faced criticism in his final years, Leopold was never prosecuted or held legally accountable, and he died in 1909 with a good chunk of his fortune still intact.
The streets of Brussels are sometimes described as an open-air gallery with street art found right across the city. But sitting often right alongside is the memorialization of Belgium's history, namely its brutal and controversial colonial king.
Josef Mengele.
Josef Mengele has become the poster boy for Nazi medical experiments. What is it about Mengele that makes him so notorious?
With the horrifying nickname the Angel of Death, Josef Mengele was one of Nazi Germany's most unhinged officers. Mengele served as the camp director at Auschwitz, where he often conducted nightmarish medical experiments on prisoners.
Mengele kept her from feeding her newborn child in order to see what would happen to the child, how long it could live until it starved.
These experiments included injecting chemicals into eyes, deliberately infecting people with diseases, and performing surgeries without anesthesia. He also chose who would be sent to the gas chambers, often with an unemotional wave of his hand. Mengele also represents one of the most frustrating failures of post-war justice. He managed to escape the liberation and fled to South America, where he lived comfortably for the rest of his life. Despite decades of international efforts, Mengele was never captured, and he died in 1979 while swimming in Brazil.
Mengele was not the only Nazi doctor carrying out this kind of work, quote unquote. And the reason why we think about him is because he got away with it.
Joseph Stalin.
In terms of ruthlessness, bloodlust, Stalin remains one of the greatest villains of the 20th century.
Leader of the Soviet Union from 1924 to 1953, Joseph Stalin was responsible for some of the 20th century's most heinous crimes against humanity. His policies led to an infamous famine known as the Holodomor, which led to millions of deaths and which is now considered a genocide. He also oversaw the Great Purge, a systemic effort to eliminate who Stalin perceived as national enemies. Mass executions became routine, and a further 1 million or so died through executions and forced labor camps.
Under Stalin, Russia became the second largest industrial economy in the world. It was all planned economies, 5-year plans, and if you didn't play by his rules, you went off to a labor camp, or you were summarily executed in some fashion.
And because Stalin controlled the entire Soviet apparatus, opposition was virtually impossible, and restricted foreign access helped control the flow of information. Stalin died of natural causes in 1953 while still in power, never facing trial or external judgment for his actions.
There was a time after his death when all the Stalin statues in Russia were removed, were knocked down, when Stalin's cult of personality and his crimes against the people were officially condemned. The Great Terror, the millions sent to the Gulag, the hundreds of thousands of people executed.
What do you make of these injustices? Let us know in the comments below.
That's when Polanski got on a plane, fled to Europe, and has been gone ever since.